Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 105. Today, we're going to be talking about natural and logical consequences. And Ashley actually has a story to share with us that is related to this topic. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Fiercely Gentle podcast.
Gentle parenting is not just about how we respond to our kids. It's also about who we are becoming as parents.
So many of us were raised in traditional homes and were taught to listen and comply. But now we want to do things differently. I'm KJ Altoff.
And I'm Ashley Kanazowicz. We're two imperfect moms trying to navigate parenting, overcome our triggers, and share what we're learning so you don't have to feel so alone.
Let's come together and learn how to become more fierce in our values so that we can stay gentle in our parenting.
This is Fiercely Gentle.
I remember you sent me that voice memo and listening to it. And as you were explaining to me what had happened that morning, in my mind, all I kept thinking was, I have those same moments all the time where I have to ask myself, am I being too firm right now? Or if I don't follow through with holding this boundary, am I becoming permissive? I don't
Yes.
know. I remember we were talking that morning, just sending each other messages back and forth, and we both agreed that this is a thought that we have regularly. And so obviously many other parents out there, I'm sure, struggle with this, where they want to be gentle parents, they don't want to be permissive, they don't want to be authoritarian, but then they experience this parenting challenge and they don't know how to move forward because they're wondering, am I holding a consequence or am I punishing the behavior, right?
Right. And I think because it's not so clearly defined as specifically one or the other, it's more of a balance. You can lean more toward one way or the other, depending on the situation. I think that makes it a little trickier sometimes if we don't have, like our values solidified yet.
Right.
So first of all, I think I just want to normalize the questioning or the doubts. Everybody feels it. And I want to dive into this topic because I want to learn and I want to see if what I'm doing makes sense for my family or if maybe I need to make some adjustments.
Before we dive into consequences and punishment, why don't you share with us the parenting moment that you had?
Okay. So my son was taking a turn with a toy and my daughter wanted a turn and she was getting very frustrated and she wasn't handling it well. And so she and her brother started fighting and I stepped in and I was very composed. I was regulated. I was trying to ask her questions to kind of figure out what is it she's really feeling? What is it she's really looking for? How can we work this out together? And she was in a state where she was not able to answer any of my questions. And she was getting very angry with me for even asking questions. That was seeming to trigger her even more. And so she started to get very rude with me. She was saying very hurtful things, and I could tell we weren't really going to get anywhere in this moment. And so she actually was able to recognize that she needed a minute. And I'm so proud of her for that. She said very rudely, but she said, I need to go get away and take a minute. I'm so mad. And so she went to her room and she took a long time to calm down, which is great for her. But then by the time she came back, it wasn't really about the struggle with the toy anymore. Now it was more about like the way that she had handled her feelings and the way that she had spoken to both her brother and me. And so she came back out and she was still very mad. And I still wasn't able to talk with her about it. So I said, you know what? I think we just need to not have this toy for today. I think because we're not able to have a constructive conversation about what's happening and how you're feeling and how to handle it. I think the best decision is just to take a break from this toy for today. You won't have a turn with it today, and we can try again tomorrow. And she did not like that. And that made her very angry. And she fought some more, went back to her room, spent some more time soul searching or whatever she was doing in there, and came back out. And then she started saying like I'm sorry, now can I have the toy? I know what I did was wrong. Now can I have the toy? And so it wasn't really about learning that skill in that moment. It became about what can she say to get the thing she wants. And sometimes just because I love them and I want them to have like a joy-filled day, I tend to lean, I think, a little bit more permissive and kind of give in and be like, okay, you're sorry. Now you can have the toy. But I really want to be more consistent with
Yeah.
these boundaries that I set for them. And so I put my foot down and I said, like, thank you for your apology. I would love to talk to you more about it, but we're still not going to have the toy today. We'll try again tomorrow. Naturally, she was mad about that. So long story short, I started to wonder, is that a punishment? Because I am taking something away from her based on her behavior in the moment. And then I'm continuing to withhold that activity from her, which kind of, maybe because the way I was raised, it kind of feels like I'm grounding her. So that's when I messaged you and I was struggling with, am I punishing her by taking this activity away? Or is this a consequence for her not being able to have a conversation about it? And we didn't have like any closure, you know? So I feel like I can't just give her the toy when there wasn't closure to that problem.
Yeah. I really want to process this now. We talked about it a little bit back and forth in the voice memo, but I think our plan was to really dive into it in this episode and talk through it because I could see the confusion. I think if any parent were in that situation contemplating, I don't want to use punishment. I want to use consequences to positively discipline my kids. And then wondering but is this a punishment? Because I'm inflicting pain or not physical pain, but hurt, right? My daughter's upset and it doesn't feel good for me to be the reason that now she's hurting or upset.
Right.
Because of this thing that she really wants, right? But at the same time, we don't want to just give in and prevent our kids from feeling that feeling of disappointment or anger or frustration. And we want them to, we want to help support them through those feelings because we also want to stand by the boundaries that we set. So where does it fall? What is a punishment? What is a consequence? When does a consequence become a punishment?
Yeah.
Even as you were re-explaining this story just now, I'm thinking the same way, and we had talked about what a punishment is in a previous episode. The definition of it was to inflict pain, to inflict harm on another person to gain control over them, right? So the intention behind that is power, to gain power over somebody. Your intention in that moment was not to gain power over your daughter. It was more of to help her learn an important lesson that's tied to your values. Would you agree?
I do agree. And actually, while you were saying that, I think the reason it was so confusing for me in the moment is because I've been in a situation as a parent where I am withholding a toy or an activity to assert this kind of, I'm the parent, I'm in charge, I'm upset with you, therefore you're not going to have this thing. And it feels very similar, but the intention is different.
Yeah.
In that moment, the story that I shared, I wasn't withholding it because I was upset with her.
Yeah.
I was withholding it because I wanted her to learn and understand that when you talk to people this way, you're not going to get the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Because you're using language that hurts people and they're not going to be like, oh, you're hurting me. Here, have the toy.
Right.
And that seems more important to me than giving her the toy. And I think because I stayed regulated the whole time, it wasn't about me and my anger, and I wasn't trying to assert dominance over her.
Yeah. On the outside, the two situations could appear similar, and no one other than you or us in those situations can feel the intention.
I think so many people get hung up on the word gentle in gentle parenting. Like we've talked about, they assume that it's being calm all the time or being permissive or just, okay, you can do whatever you want. But I think that this is a good example of why the word gentle actually really works, because you can say the same exact thing to your child in two different ways. You can say, I don't think it's a good idea for you to have this toy because of the way that you were talking to us. And that's gentle. Or you can say, you're not going to have this toy because you're not allowed to talk to me that way.
Yeah.
And that's not gentle. It's the same method. It's the same sentence even. But it is an internal shift in making it about your child and about their skills rather than about you and your triggers.
Yeah. Yeah. The delivery of the same message makes a difference for
Yeah.
sure in how you communicate it to your kids.
It's not that we
Yeah.
are being like we're just laying down and being gentle and letting it happen. We are finding gentler ways to raise our kids within those rules and boundaries of our home.
Right. There's an explanation behind the reason, the rationale behind the decisions that we make versus just because I said so.
If this is not a punishment, then what do we call it?
This would be a logical consequence.
A logical consequence. And so there's natural consequences, and then there's also logical consequences. And
Yes.
those are different things. Yes.
They are. Yes.
What is different about them?
So we use both in gentle parenting as a way to help kids learn. It's a form of positive discipline, which we hear a lot in the gentle parenting world or just the positive parenting world. Natural consequences are consequences that happen regardless of a parent being there or not. Parent is not involved at all, and the consequence still happens. So for example, if it's cold outside and you choose not to wear a jacket or a coat, you're going to feel cold. The natural consequence is you feel cold. You're going to feel cold whether your parent is there or not. It's a natural consequence. Another example is if you leave your toy outside and it rains the next day, your toy is going to get wet and could be ruined. That's a natural consequence of leaving your toy outside. Or if you don't put your book away that you're reading and you don't put it back to where it belongs, you lose it. That's a natural consequence of not being responsible for your things and putting it back where it belongs. So those are some examples of what a natural consequence is. Now, a logical consequence is a consequence that happens as a result of a parent's decision. So I'll give you the example. If your child throws the TV remote across the room and it breaks, the natural consequence is the broken remote, right? Because your child threw it and now it's broken. That's a natural consequence. A logical consequence would be the parent saying, no more TV the rest of the day. That's a consequence that the parent has implemented. So that's the difference between a natural and logical consequence.
That makes a lot of sense. So a natural consequence is with no parental interference.
Correct.
It's something that happens naturally. And a logical consequence is parental interference. But as we discussed, it's based on the child learning something versus based on the parent's feelings or mood or trigger. It's almost like we can kind of assess the situation and see, is there going to be a natural consequence as a result? And then if not, should I enact a logical consequence? I was thinking too, it's important for them to learn to respect others. With punishment, you're teaching them to respect you because you're older, you're bigger, you're the parent, you're louder, more powerful, whatever. But with a logical consequence, you can teach them to respect me because I'm a person and we have a relationship and you care about me and I care about you. And this isn't the way we talk to each other.
Yeah.
It really is just about the intention behind what you're doing. Is it for your child and for your relationship, or is it for this feeling of needing to be in control?
Yeah. And also, when we use natural and logical consequences, we're also modeling the same behavior that we're asking them to behave versus if we were to use punishment, we might be punishing our kids for yelling at us, but we normalize yelling at them, like we're not teaching them the lesson of let's not yell at each other because it's not respectful. It's more of you're not allowed to yell at me. I'm allowed to yell at you, but you're not allowed to yell at me.
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel that kind of hypocrisy a lot.
Yeah.
because I have two kids and there's a lot of sibling rivalry that happens and they do bicker and yell at each other. And I'm like, if I tell them you can't yell when you're mad, and then they're like, but you yelled when you were mad, then I'm like, you're right. You're right. I did. And wasn't that wrong of me? And so then I have to like be humbled and be like, you're right. I shouldn't have done that to you.
Yeah. I have the same conversations with my son when that happens. He'll call me out because he has that sense of safety to say, you did that to me, or you talked to me like that. And I say the same thing. I'm like, you're right. I should not have said that, or I shouldn't have
Yeah.
talked to you that way. You're right. That's not respectful. I'm sorry. And I think that's what's important, is that it's not about us doing it perfectly. It's about recognizing and not punishing our kids for calling us out on behavior that we're trying to teach them not to have.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. So, KJ, what would you say your takeaway is from this episode?
That's a great question, because we covered a lot and I was also processing while you were talking. But I think my biggest takeaway from this is recognizing what your intention is in your parenting. There is no perfect way to handle a certain parenting moment. The way you handled the situation with your kids might look different if I were in that same situation, because you and I are different people and we have different values. But the intention we have behind however we choose to move forward with that situation is what's most important. And I know that you and I both have the same intention of teaching skills and guiding our kids. And we can always reflect back and, think about how we could do things differently in the future. Maybe we didn't handle it perfectly, but as long as we are taking the time to learn from each challenging parenting moment and knowing that we are standing firm in the intention that we want to guide and teach, that's what matters.
Yeah, I agree. I think my takeaway would basically be the same thing. I want to sit and think, why am I making this decision? Am I making it for my child so that they can benefit and grow and learn? Or am I making it for myself because I am feeling triggered or powerless or angry? And that really is intention. What is fueling the decision to enact a consequence, and go from there?
Thank you for listening. We're grateful to have you in this community.
Parenting this way isn't easy. We're all learning, showing up every day, reflecting, repairing, and continuing to grow.
If anything in today's conversation resonated with you, or if you have a question or topic you'd like us to talk through in future episodes, we would love to hear from you. We'll share our contact information down below in the description.
Until next time, be kind to yourself. And remember, you are a fiercely gentle parent.